Most automation videos you see online today are, to be honest, useless. I call them automation porn. They look cool, but most of them are overcomplicated. They don't last more than 8 seconds in the real world. And the only people who seem to benefit from them are the creators that are making these videos. Today, I'm going to do just the opposite. I'll show you how I analyze a business, a friend's company who's very kind enough to let me into a CRM and dig around as I like, spot practical AI workflow opportunities that actually save time, reduce errors, and grow revenue. And as a bonus at the end, I'm going to show you an example of an automation or a workflow that I've built in an agent for him that he can apply directly and start saving time and making more sales. So no theory, no gimmicks, just real business impact, simple AI-based workflows to improve your sales and start getting more revenue. Let's go. So this friend of mine, he has a company in the Middle East where he does offline storage business. So think of self-storage. He's one of the pioneers in the Middle East. And if you look at his CRM, which he's very kind enough to give me access to, you can see the number of deals they make in one location. So this is an example of a location that they make. They have a bunch of different locations over the Middle East. And you can see that, for instance, they've gotten 404 leads in April and they've converted 13 of them. And obviously I see that they're getting a lot of leads, but very few actually convert. And all these leads that I've interviewed the founder and I've interviewed the sales team and the operations manager, and all these leads are inbound leads. So they know our leads, which means these are already warm leads that are coming in, and they're coming in mainly through their website. So they fill in a form where they write their name, email, the size of the storage they need, or if they're not sure, and a number to contact. So in my opinion, when I looked at this data the first time, my spontaneous feeling was that this needs to be more than 5. This is like 5-6% conversion. And I think this can be a lot higher. So if you look at August, they've got 176 leads, and you can see they've 117, which is a pretty good percentage compared to like 17 out of 244 or 14 out of 285, right? And April was 404 and they got 13. Obviously, there's a delay in terms of sales, right? So, and if you look at that delay, there's an 87-day delay, which means that it takes up to 87 days for them to close a deal. So if they had 404 leads in April, so May, June, July should have been a great month, but they got only 17, which is still a better month than the others, the second best month at least. But May, they already got 19. So there's something that this data is not telling us, right? Which is something we need to look at. But on a very high average level, you can see that the conversion rate is hovering around 5.5%. And I think for inbound, the conversion rate should be much higher unless they've overpriced themselves, which I don't think they have. So their pricing is pretty good. They have dynamic pricing. They have very good product in terms of different storage sizes. So really, for me, this is a problem either in terms of the person selling or in terms of how they sell. I've interviewed the people and they're very nice and they're very good. So I don't think it's the person, it's the process. And that's probably the 80-20 over here. So if you look at this, you can see that this is the data. And if you look at their Pipedrive, this is their leads. This is their deals Kanban. You can see that they obviously, as soon as they get a lead, they bring it into a quotation or a follow-up call. But if you look at an example over here, you can see that this deal or lead has been rotting for 202 days. And you can see that it stops over here. So there's a quotation that's sent and there's a follow-up call that was scheduled or that should have been done. From the notes over here, it feels like it's not been done. And then they don't get anything more. So they have the visited, they have the negotiations, they have the frozen and reserved. Now, let's sort of scroll down and look at a few more. I'm probably going to change the filter and see all lost deals. What can we see from them? Over here, you can see that this was lost because there was a quotation that was sent. Again, I'm not sure if there was a follow-up. Okay, let's see what this means. No answer. Perfect. So no answer, send quotation. This is in Arabic. I'm going to translate ChatGPT. Translate to English. So let's see what this customer says. Okay, so she wanted to store her household furniture. She was given the prices and offers. It's just an inquiry. So maybe she's not a real deal. But I would say this was done 23rd February, right? 22nd February. And today is, when I'm filming this video, it's 29th August. Perfect. That's been 6 months. Somebody should call this person, right? And try to get her back because obviously she was interested and she must have her need either solved or maybe there's a new need that's arisen. And this is where I get reminded of Alex Hormozi, where he talks about people have different channels that they like. Some like phones, some like Instagram, some like emails, some like letters. And people's life changes over 90 days. So what might not be super important 90 days ago might become super important now, or vice versa. And the only way to know that is to keep calling or to be in touch with the person, right? And that's where marketing drip systems come in. But in case of offline brick and mortar businesses, obviously it's much harder to have systems like this, because a lot of times you don't have the capital or the know-how or the skills or the talent really to how to set up these systems, right? I'm not surprised that you see data like this. So here is another example. He didn't answer. He has a 40-foot container needed to be stored. It's about toys and clothes. He will wait. And then this was June, and then our sales guy Abdullah, he's called him again in July. Again, it's been few months. I probably find a schedule there. Some other filters here. So here you can see there's more than 150 deals that are just rotting, right? So rotting is they just stalled, and you can see, yeah, perfect. So here you can see there's an email that was sent. Let's make it bigger. Brock seems to be around that. Here you can see that this person says that maybe it's not easy for you to know how much space you need. Yeah. If you imagine the sales guys and girls are doing a great job, it's pretty hard to keep track of everything that you need to do when you have so many rotten deals that are being, right? So here you can see another one. Yeah. So anyway, these are deals. And then if you look at the data again, you can see that there are insights. Perfect. So you can see that there's a 6% conversion rate and a 4% conversion rate, which is not really high if you ask me for inbound. And is there anything else? 87 days. So 6% is basically the conversion. 5 to 6% is where we are. And you can see there's a lot of incoming leads, but not all of them are being converted today. So what I like to do is actually spend a little bit more time on Pipedrive, because this is their CRM. And I can see, for instance, that the sales inbox is not completely connected, right? There are a couple of emails that came in there, but they don't use the sales inbox, which is a lost opportunity. I don't see any call tracking over here. Yeah, so you can see they've been trying to call. I don't think they used to call. Yeah, no, they're not booking the calendar either. So that's another thing. I don't see any integrations with calling. What else? Yeah, they're not using any live chat, I believe, on their website. And I also see no connection to their social, right? So you have messaging over here. The messenger is not connected. I can imagine. I know I checked this in the call yesterday that they have pretty good incoming leads via LinkedIn, via Instagram and Messenger, but that is not being used. So basically, let's open up an Evernote. This, make my notes. So I would say the goal is to improve conversion and hence sales or grow revenue, right? Without having to grow team or headcount or increase marketing spend. That'll be where I would start, because clearly they're getting 400 to 500 leads a month, which means there's something going right with their marketing. They're getting cost per lead is about $8 to $10, which is all right. But obviously, there's a lot to improve there too. But if you just assume that can be the same and we can improve the conversion, how would we do that? So I would say the first opportunity is use Pipedrive better, right? And that would be integrate inbox, then integrate chat, messenger, and other channels, right? Number 3 would be to integrate calling, so we get transcripts, because I didn't see any transcripts from the calls, which means they're probably using their cell phone and calling, which is weird, because if we get the transcripts, we can also look at adding AI and diagnosing what's going on. So the expected impact is that if you just do this, you'll start seeing a clearer picture of your customer journey, who your most important customer is, because that's a lot of times the biggest problem, right? You have very few sales staff and they're treating all leads the same, which is wrong, because not all leads are the same. So you need to know who are your best leads and put your salespeople on them, and the rest should be either self-serviced or deprioritized. But definitely your salespeople should not be wasting time with prospects that will never become customers. Get a scoring system in place, right, that integrates marketing and sales, so you can see if they visited your website, you can see if they've opened a newsletter, and so on and so forth. I think that's just the basics. I'm just going to call this track 1, basic track. And this is just, they have to just get this done. Like, this is no complicated than that. So I would say this is the first track. Let me just see if there's something else over here that can be done. The no-brainer track, messages, calling. The other thing we can do is to actually do pricing and proposal inbuilt. So proposal generator, or rather pricing and proposal sender, right? Is then get reminders on proposals and follow-ups, right? So I think this is pretty good too. So they're sending proposals by hand in a document and an email, which is not great. So I would say, just if they integrate in their inbox, the chat, messenger, and other channels, integrate calling and pricing and proposal, they'd at least get a 5% I'll just make it notes or why. And then what is the expected goal, right? And if you look at that, I would say it's expected like slight increase in conversion and efficiency of your sales of your team, right? Because literally you get all the data in one place and your team knows where to find that data, and you can start focusing on where your best customers are. Let's go to track 2, which is the real track I'm excited about. So this is the automation track, automation slash workflows. If you come back to Pipedrive, you will see a few things. So I've been obviously analyzing this a little bit before this video, and let me show you a couple of ideas. So one of the things is the fact that the follow-up calls, you see they have 66 follow-up calls just this month that has not been done. And this is classic. This is a classic case of the people not having time, because they're spending time with people walking in, they're spending time sending emails, they're spending time, updating the CRM, and that's your day. That's 8 hours, and there's some lunch in between. So obviously these things are also high friction activities, right? Because these are things that you have to do, but it takes a lot of effort to get started, especially there's inertia. And I don't blame them. It's like working out. There's inertia. So the first AI workflow I'd probably think about is a follow-up workflow. I would say if having an AI voice agent to call outbound cold is pretty tricky. Like the conversion rates are going to be a lot lower. But if there's somebody that you've already met, they've met a person, and assuming in this meeting, the salesperson says, listen, I know your life is busy. In a week, I'll call you, but it'll be my colleague, which is an AI colleague, that will call you. I think people will be okay with that. So I'm going to call it voice AI follow-up agent. So follow up with a prospect that has met, shown interest, but not replied, right? And this could be gotten a proposal. This could be interested, but not sure, right? They've gotten a proposal, they're interested, not sure, or they wanted to sign, but haven't, right? So these are everybody except the customer. Now, this is also interesting as an agent, because what I'd also put this agent on is that's the second part of the same agent, which is to follow up with ex-customers, with churned customers, right? So these could be churn such from some time ago, like 6 months ago, understand and collect data. It doesn't have to be a sales agent, right? So follow-up agent, sales, gentle reminder, right? Do two activities. And this metric, I think, should, if you look at just this month's deals, okay, let's do some basic mathematics. So if you have 66 deals that they can follow up, let's say 50% pick up, because the AI can keep following up till you pick up. Let's say they have 35 calls. And I would imagine if they're warm leads that have shown interest, they've met with somebody, I'd imagine a conversion rate of at least 25%, 25 to 30%. So let's say it's eight deals. And if you get $1,000 lifetime, which is what the storage industry usually has, that's $8,000 in collected revenue that is being lost today. So this simple voice AI agent can give you $8,000 with 66 deals. Obviously, if you take the whole lifetime of all the lost deals, and let's say this year, follow-up call, deal status, deal created, and let's see, call, last, expected close date, where should this be? Okay, yeah, here you go. So these are 361 deals that are waiting for a follow-up call. I'd imagine that 526 over here, a large majority could also be called. Actually, this number is pretty conservative. And then you have 26 that have visited and that have not been closed, right? So none of this include closed deals, and you have 3 frozen. So literally, I'd argue that all of these can be used, the AI agent can be used for. That's 526 plus 361 plus 26 plus 3. That's 30, that's 400, that's about 1,000 leads, right? So if you have 1,000 leads, and let's say we speak to about 500 of them over a period of 3 months, and about 30% close, or 25%, let's be conservative, 20% even, 100 closed deals, and each deal is worth $1,000. We just found $100,000 in lost sales, which a voice agent can do. And then you can argue that this voice agent should not try to sell; it should just try to book an appointment, right? So, and then there's another, cut off from here. So let's say we close 80 even, because they have to meet a person, they have to book a time, and probably 70. So we still got $70,000, and I would imagine that this, doesn't take more than a day to build, a day and a half, and the AI calls and everything. should not cost more than a few $1,000s at most, right, for this time period. So you have a 95-98% margin opportunity here without adding any headcount or increasing your marketing spend, which is the goal. Okay, so this is for me a no-brainer. Let's go back and let's see what else can we do. So this is now there's also another interesting voice agent opportunity, in my opinion, which is the after hours voice agent. So so these would be people that call the service after hours or weekends, and there's no routine today. So here you would have an AI that answering machine, right? Books a meeting, answers your questions, right? And let's say we get 20 such calls a week. The AI speaks to all of them, obviously, and about 10 of them book an appointment, right? And about 3, that's a lot. 2 convert to sales, probably 1 convert to sales. And the current conversion rate, that's still $1,000 per week, right? Now, if you can get more people to do these calls, obviously you can get more. And if you can convert more, of course, you can get more. But still, there's a $1,000 per week opportunity. There's $70,000 in lost sales over, let's say, 3 months that we can recover, right? And this is $1,000 per week that keeps running. So this is another idea I probably think about doing. Let's see. The next one I probably think about doing is to look at how to enrich your CRM. So if you look at a deal like this, it's manually written, right? It doesn't come automatic. And if it's manual, there's a high chance there's mistakes and not everything is filled. So I'd probably look at understanding where is this person from, what's his or her Instagram or Facebook, if it's a private person, and if it's a company, what's the organization and everything about the organization over here. And I'd probably have that as a view in the CRM, because then you can see whether these customers are actually, well, you can start finding patterns basically. So I'm just going to call it data enrichment to find patterns. So here you'll have enrich with organization information, Instagram, etc., to collect points and see patterns, right? So I don't think this would increase conversion immediately, but it'll make us smarter over time and give us some kind of leverage to build on. So this is something I'd invest in for the future. All right. Then the last thing I'd probably do is some kind of a proposal generator. We spoke about that in the first track, but I'd probably put an AI on it. So the AI looks at all the data over here, looks at all the objections and comes up with a proposal. So makes a proposal with dynamic pricing, transcript from call or meeting, makes a proposal, right? That is then ready to send digitally. Now, again, what would be interesting over here is probably to see how we can get the meeting. If they have a face-to-face meeting, how we can do that too. So maybe the guy should have like a recorder and that records the conversation and that transcripts it, right? So that could be another idea, which is having a meeting recorder. And that could be on their phone, right? Doesn't have to be an extra device. So phone meeting recorder app. So it records physical tours and meetings, transcribes them automatically, and uploads them to the right person's CRM info in Pipedrive, right? And gives you smartness over time that you can use AI to leverage. Okay, so I'd say this is probably the main things I'd probably look at. The last thing probably I should look at is the outbound bit. I'm going to call it AI outbound, and here it would be scrape LinkedIn, etc., to find any conversation around storage needs. And then this should come into, so this would be new leads / opportunities. I'm putting this here, although we're not going to increase marketing spend, is because this is so cheap to do that you should be able to do this workflow once, set it and forget it, and you keep getting leads into your CRM that feel and look like any other inbound leads, but you just got them through an outbound effort, right? Because these are people already talking about now the need. They're really expressing the need. So I'd probably start here. And the most important thing I'd probably do to make this implementation go well is what is called the SOPs. How do we standardize how we work and train the team to work this way? Because that is usually the biggest skill gap, that people understand what they need to do, but they don't know how to get there. Now you can also see that they're not using Pipedrive well, and you have marketplace over here, right? That has a lot of different tools. So this, get a Pipedrive expert to work with them on, or at least get started with them, where you can see that you can definitely squeeze a lot more out of Pipedrive than what they've done. So here you have it. So here's an example of a workflow I'd probably end up building is to get a trigger where this is a very simple outbound voice agent. So over here, I'm using Bland AI. So I really like Bland AI. If you've not used Bland AI, I recommend you to look at it, especially if you're other languages beyond English. 11 Labs is great for the voice part, but I find the Bland AI API to be really good because they have everything from noise cancellation to how you customize the voice in API, which is really good. Now, what I especially like about Bland AI is that when you speak to an AI, for instance, you speak to ChatGPT or Grok, you start speaking and it stops immediately, right? And if somebody else next to you stops speaking, it can also stop speaking. So if you have a person next to you, or if you're on the subway, which a lot of people are, if you're on the bus or driving and there's some noise, the AI can get distracted very fast. And that's an example of a setting that you can actually change. So over here, you can see that they have different modals, they have different languages. You can wait for greeting. So if you're doing a call, outbound call, maybe you want them to say hello first before you start talking. You have a pronunciation guide, which I really like. Then you have dispatch settings. Well, I've not used that yet, but it's good to know that exists. And here is the main thing, right? What is the background audio? What's the noise cancellation? What's the block interruption? Especially a no-brainer for me. And a lot of like I've not seen other APIs that have offered this. So if you find something, please put them in the comment below. But so far, Bland is the only one that I see, and it seems to be priced all right. I believe it's 9 cents for a minute, which is not too bad. Obviously, we'll see how if people really end up speaking a lot with AI, and then that might be a bigger issue. But for now, I think this is great. So I would say a trigger like this, an automation flow like this that starts with a simple connection to Pipedrive, it executes the workflow, and then it makes the call on your behalf. And if somebody did pick up the call, it starts going into Pipedrive. The data starts coming to Pipedrive. And if somebody didn't pick up the call, then there's some kind of an handling call outcome flow, right? Something like this. So there's no answer. Maybe you should do an SMS. And if there is an answer, log the status in Pipedrive. So I'd probably do something like that. That would be an example of a workflow, which I'd implement. But if I zoom out and look at the main idea is that you don't want to build automations that have no business impact. You want to build simple 8-10 flow automations, as you can see over here, that work really well. You don't want to have these complex, huge, artistic automations that sound in principle that on a YouTube video, but it's going to break the first time you run it. So I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of breaking down the business goals into small chunks, really explaining why. What I'm going to do actually is to work with the team to make the expected metric really clear, and then prioritize what are the best automations to build, and then build them one at a time, and introduce new SOPs for the team, because this is obviously going to create a change in how they work, which we should not underestimate. So most of the people are not as nerdy as you and me are in this channel. They are just regular people that are doing their regular job, and AI is really ChatGPT for them at best. So to offer them something that would make life easier, it needs to be done in partnership with them. So you don't want to just throw it at them, right? So this is where I'm really excited to make the human part of AI really work. And I hope you really enjoyed this video where I take you through an actual CRM, take you through the actual opportunities, and then I've taken you through an example of a workflow you can actually build and how that workflow would look like. So if you did, and subscribe to my channel, that helped the algorithms a lot and helped me a lot. And write a comment if something was not clear or if you have any questions. And as always, you can find all my workflows in the link below. It's a Gumroad link. So enjoy. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.